Trying to build an audience first is the biggest mistake you can make in B2B content marketing. Or not. Today we're breaking down why everyone gets content strategies backwards and the not so straightforward approach that actually drives revenue.
The mistake they make is actually the same thing that B2C people make or low ticket B2B people make in my view, which is they always try to start at the top of the funnel. I would tell your audience, anyone who wants to learn content marketing, you should always have an open mind. But the only truth you should ever adhere to is test everything. Our YouTube channel, for example, that you edit, right? We very rarely have anything that goes viral. I don't care about all these hundreds of thousands of people watching my video. I do care about everyone at this conference watching my video because these 200 people are my potential customers, right? My name is Greg Elfrink. I'm the head of marketing at Empire Flippers. We're the #1 largest curated marketplace in the world when it comes to digital M&A. So we help people buy and sell digitally native businesses.
Greg's story starts in one of the most unlikely places, freezing his ass off on an oil rig in Alaska, doing what he absolutely hates.
In terms of my background, so I joined the company as a content manager. So I was just basically the guy that was writing the blogs. Before that, I was an oil-filled roughneck up in Alaska. And I did that for many, many years, hated it. So I taught myself internet marketing to get off of the oil rig.
Most content strategies fail before they even start, not because the content is bad, but because they're targeting the wrong people at the wrong time in their buying journey.
So a classic content marketing example, before all this AI craziness at least, would be go into Ahrefs or SEMrush, get a bunch of keywords and write a bunch of articles that are related to what you do, right? Not terrible strategy, but the problem is that that's very top of funnel. And when you are starting out, especially when you're starting out, you have a very finite amount of resources of capital and time and talent that you can use. So you waste it all, you squander it all by this whole myth that you should build an audience first, which I think is putting the cart before the horse.
The real issue, you're competing for infinite attention when you should be focused on finite, high-value opportunities.
Instead of going top of funnel, which is infinite, because there's an infinite amount of things you can talk about, like HubSpot used to have an article they were ranking for on a best Bluetooth headphone for you to buy, because they tangentially related it to having a good headphones is good for salespeople. You know what else is good for salespeople? The CRM, right?
So what should you focus on instead? Content that targets people who are already close to making a buying decision.
What people should focus on when they first start their content marketing journey is bottom of funnel of content. This is not content that's going to get tens of thousands of views, might not even get 1,000 views, but it is the bottom of funnel of content where your buyers, whoever your customers are, they're close to the end of the journey already. And that's the type of content you should focus on. It has the highest amount of leverage.
But what does bottom of funnel content actually looks like? Greg shares a perfect example from Empire Flippers that generated millions in capital.
So an example of bottom of funnel content that we did, this was years ago. And this is a good example for anyone doing B2B where you have a team in Slack, because this probably exists in your Slack as it did in ours. So there's this concept I call dark content. I don't ever hear anyone else talk about it, so I coined the term, as every good marketer does. So dark content is basically let's say a client has a meeting with a salesperson at Playstack to do their YouTube channel, right? On that call, the client asks a bunch of really good questions, and the sales guy is on fire that day. For whatever reason, he's in the zone, and he's giving really, really good advice. So what happens after that call is done, even if it's recorded, usually what ends up happening is that's it. And his next call might not be nearly as fire as that, because maybe it doesn't feel as good that day or whatever, right? We're all human, right? So what you do is you go and take that recording and you turn that into content, because those questions that the customer is asking on that call can often be the seed for bottom of funnel content. So an example at Empire Flippers, we used to have this process where if you wanted to buy a business, and usually this happened on smaller businesses, so sub $500,000. If you want to buy a business, you have to send in a bank wire to us, but there might also be 10 other people sending in this bank wire. And whoever's bank wire hits our bank first is the one that gets the deal, because that's the deal that the seller agreed to. So as you can imagine, out of those 12 buyers, there was 11 pretty pissed off, right? So in our Slack, there was always this joke with our sales team and even our ops team, about winning the wire race. Oh, this guy lost the wire race. And no one knew about this, right? So I told the guys, like, when if we did credit on file, which we already had like the ability to let people leave credit on file with us, but we never really talked about it much. So I wrote a blog post called Winning the Wire Race and talked about this exact frustration that our buyers who are very bottom of funnel, right? Like they're wanting to buy deals, right? How they can actually win the deal by, instead of waiting to wire us the money when they find a good deal, just wire us money now. And then when you find a good deal, we'll mark that money you sent in as for that deal. Now, you might think, who the hell would send in hundreds of thousands of dollars? Well, it turns out quite a lot. We got millions of dollars as credit on file. And what did that do for us? It made the speed to sell way, 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 way quicker. And because those people have money locked up with us now, I mean, they can get it back anytime they want. They just tell us send it back, right? But they've already did a pretty big commitment by sending us their money. That's a big trust thing. And they're not even ready to buy anything yet, right? So now they like are really on the marketplace, like looking for something, right? And this is not an article that, like, if someone searches Google, like, how do I win the wire race? Google's like, what are you talking about? Like, whatever they're showing you is not what I'm going to show you, right? But that's a good example of bottom of funnel. They're already in my ecosystem in some shape or form. What they might not even be a subscriber, they might just be browsing the website, right? They're familiar with me, with the world of EF. And this little article is like that great tactical last step. This is why you choose us, so you can get the deal like really, really quick. But that's an example of bottom of funnel content. Like that piece of article, that one article, less than 1,000 words, probably did more for our revenue than, writing 1,000 SEO focused articles, basically, that are like shoulder niche content, like what HubSpot was doing.
Bottom funnel content has massive leverage because it solves immediate problems for people ready to buy. I told someone yesterday who wants to get more into content creation and YouTube specifically. And then I was like, okay, what have you done, or what's your current process? And he's like, to be honest, I'm so in the weeds, like with the operations. I do the sales calls and stuff like that. I just don't know where to start and what to do. And I was like, okay, what if you just, any question that you answer on a sales call or anything that you have to explain twice, you should just turn that into a video or turn that into a piece of content. First of all, it would just save you so much time. And second of all, that's exactly what your audience is looking for. The reason this strategy is so powerful, it comes down to one thing. You're not guessing what people want.
And this is why you start at like things like sales questions, right? Because you're not guessing. The customers have asked those questions and they want that, right? But yeah, there's other things you can do. Like if you have a CRM, you can build pipelines, deal flow. You can look at first source, last source. Like you really need a multi-touch attribution to get like a really good signal of any kind. And you also need significant amount of customers, right? Which is another problem for us at EF, because like we'll do hundreds of millions of dollars in deals, but I mean, at the end of the day, that might be 100 customers, right? Like 150 customers, because we sell very high ticket things, which means no statistic significance in terms of true execution.
Like if people want to get into content marketing, for example, you're a new head of marketing for a business and you want to tell the team like we should start doing content marketing, how can you justify that is the right answer to go to?
Almost everyone knows that they should be doing this, right? Like it's clear, but it's not so clear as in like you post an Instagram reel and you get a new lead, right? Like the world of zero click is becoming a bigger and bigger thing where like people don't even go to your website. They might see your reel on Instagram and then send you an email. Like, was it the blog post? Was it the reel? Was it the YouTube short? Like, what was it? Who knows, right? So my answer is always, if all things are being equal, would it be better that we are everywhere where our audience is or not everywhere? And the answer should be everywhere, right? Like, okay, well, how do we do that in a way with our finite resource? Our YouTube channel, for example, that you edit, right? We very rarely have anything that goes viral. But anytime we go to a conference, what's one of the things people often say? Hey, I watch your YouTube channel. It's great. Like, great. I don't care about all these hundreds of thousands of people watching my video. I do care about everyone at this conference watching my video, because these like 200 people are my potential customers, right? So you got to look at it that way.
What are the type of content formats and things that you think are moving the needle the most in B2B?
Data. So you ask yourself, what data do you have that no one else has? And then use it as much as you can. The more the data is what you own, the better. So for an example, a few years ago, I created this thing called the industry report. And I did it because I was a little bit pissed off that all of my competitors kept producing one. But the way that they would produce one was just basically scrape all the M&A marketplaces out there for what businesses are being listed at. And that's how they define their data. So what I did, because Empire Flippers uniquely has more data than pretty much anyone that we privately own, I could see what was the actual sales prices, what was the actual sales multiples, the earnouts, the deal structures, right? So most of these other like crappy industry reports are like 12 slides of scrape data, basically saying almost nothing. So I went the complete different direction using all Empire Flippers data and wrote I think it was like a 35 or 45 page report with all the graphs. And then I did it once every year and used the previous year to add even more data to show year over year trends. And this was massive. In fact, so massive that pretty much everyone stopped doing industry reports when I did it. In fact, a lot of our competitors linked to my report. On LinkedIn, there was all this huge debate about gated and ungated content. So my industry report, we always gated it. So when my competitors linked to it, they were actually sending me leads because they had to opt in to get it. So I experimented with this to where I ungated the industry report, thinking okay, all the LinkedIn gurus are telling me to do it. It must be a good idea, right? I did it. It was our worst performing ever industry report. And all the gurus oh, you did it wrong. You did it wrong. Dude, that's not what the data is saying. And so I would tell your audience, anyone who wants to learn content marketing, you should always have an open mind. But the only truth you should ever adhere to is test everything. No, whether it's me, whether it's the LinkedIn gurus or whatever, the LinkedIn gurus are talking to me blue in the face how I did it wrong, even though they couldn't explain why it was wrong. Another LinkedIn guru is telling me he doesn't do marketing funnels. He does world building, which was just a smart ass way of saying he does marketing funnels. In fact, I got him to admit it when we were debating on LinkedIn about it, that he's just using a different term for the same thing, right? So you're the true thing a good marketer does is test, test, test. And being skeptically negative about everything is another important trait, because people who don't understand marketing are too optimistic, and so they get let down very easily because they don't understand how it works. Our head of engineering, great guy, gives really good ideas. Sometimes he has a very aggressive mindset on what conversions look like. And so I always tell him, dude, if you know how to get those kind of conversions, I will pay you $10,000 to teach me. Because I've been in marketing a long time. I've never seen conversion rates like this.
Stop trying to create content for everyone and start creating content for people ready to buy from you. Your sales goals are your content goldmine. Mine them first before you worry about building an audience.
Absolutely. It's the lowest hanging fruit by far. And this is what I mean. The mistake everyone makes is going top of funnel content.
What sales questions do you get asked repeatedly? That's your next video. Start there and thank me later. You want more content on how video and content can help your business? Make sure to check out the next video.